Alright guys, Papa Pepper here today, and just checking on a few things today and realized some real interesting blessings just about a couple different things. One is I'm sitting here next to this tree. This one I got my hand around is a wild plum just growing down here in Arkansas. This one here I got growing out of it is actually a cutting from a plum tree we had in our yard in Wisconsin. So about 2 years ago, over that now, I moved down here from Wisconsin, and one thing that we wanted is some of the things we enjoyed up there. This particular plum had produced really well for us. We liked it, we enjoyed it, we have fond memories of it, and of course it was tasty. So I brought down some scions, which are just the dormant cuttings, and thought, you know what, we'll see what we can do with them. Now the thing is if I would have just left these in the cooler or refrigerator or something like that, they would have been dead by now. But I knew I had a little bit of time to work on some things. I knew it was going to take me a bit, so I found some of the wild plums growing around. There's some of them here, some of them behind me. And I said, you know what, let's just graft them into there. I can practice my grafting skills, and then we'll see what happens. So you can see here, did pretty good. And then actually right behind me too, coming out of this branch here of this wild plum is another cutting. So the cool thing about this is I can let this grow on this wild plum tree. I can prune back some of the other stuff. I can take dormant cuttings from this, graft into other wild plums, turn this whole wild plum tree here into just a better variety if I want. I could graft in some other types of plums, that type of stuff, and then when I'm ready to go down on my land, I can either lift some of these out of the soil, or there's kind of a lot of them growing along. You know, I could lift a bunch of them. Otherwise, I also have some rootstock, just some wild plum rootstock, and I can take cuttings off of this, graft it in the ones I got growing, and still have these growing here. So, some really cool stuff. When I grafted this in here, you know, it was just a stick. So all this extra growth, all these extra things coming off have gone from there. I haven't pruned it all. I figured I'm gonna let that grow as much as it can. So that way I've got that variety when I move down on my land, and the better it does here, the potentially better it'll be doing down there, and give me a lot more scions to work with. So a couple things though with plant grafting, a lot of different varieties. I kind of made my own variety, which is a cross between a whip graft and a T-bud graft, and worked pretty well for me. I've had about 50% success rate so far, and I'm just starting out, just learning, so that's encouraging. And another thing you're going to want to think about is that when people come up with new varieties of fruit, specifically, that's what I'm talking about here, is they actually patent them a lot these days. So what you're going to wind up with is about a 30-year period that a new variety is not going to be able to be grafted. You could go pick up some new variety of plum they came out with, pick up the little tree, be like, well, it needs to be pruned anyway, prune it back, and those scions, it'd be technically illegal to graft them on to just some other rootstock. So if you want another one, you have to go buy another tree. Anything that's over 30 years, the way I understand it, is free game, fair game. So something to be aware of. And then that's also one thing to think about as you move forward. A lot of times people say, well, don't plant the seeds because they won't be true to kind. Well, if you have a specific kind of plum and you want that specific kind to grow somewhere else, the only way to guarantee you have the same kind is to take a cutting of that original, and it's an exact, you know, it's a clone, it's an exact piece of it that'll be growing, producing the exact same fruit. Depending on what they got pollinated with to take the seed and plant it, it may not be true to kind. It may become some hybrid, it may become some different variety, that type of stuff, depending on what it was all mixed with. But also, I want to say that when people come up with new breeds, they do that by pollinating different varieties. You know, they'll take this plum that's got a really hardy rootstock or something, this plum that's got a really good, you know, big fruit, or take something that, you know, real disease resistant with something that produces really well. They'll try to cross-pollinate those to come up with a new variety. When that new variety comes up, if the fruit's good, they'll let that one tree grow, and then they'll start making all their cuttings from that, patent that variety, and have a new variety too. So although the fruit from a planted seed may be subpar, or it may be the same, it could also be better. So I encourage people to experiment, have some fun, see what you come up with. So anyway, just real encouraged that here we go. Same stuff we had in Wisconsin. Like I said, by grafting on right away, I bought myself almost 2.5 years now of leeway that I didn't have to worry about that yet. It's right here, ready constantly available for me whenever I want or need it. All right. Bye.